I had some naysayers. I had the heads of two of the largest companies say to me, "You'll never make it. And Omaha doesn't have room for another real estate company. And, you know, stay with us, be a manager, be part of our growing company." Well, all that did is fuel me. I mean, I thought about that every day. You'll never make it, you'll never make it, you'll never make it. And actually, that's motivation for people in every industry, is someone to say to you, "You can't." Well, you spend your entire life proving to everybody in the world you can. If you would have known me in high school, you would have said, "This guy's not going to college." Because I was a goofball. I still am. But I mean, I was more interested in making people laugh than I was thinking about my future. And I was an athlete, not a good one. All my best friends were all the all-state guys, and I was just, you know, probably less than average. In college, I found out what weightlifting was all about, and I was really disciplined. Well, all of a sudden, I'm starting at defensive end on the JV team over guys that were all state my senior year. So it did kind of a mind game with me. All of a sudden I've got this, you know, belief in me, there's nothing I can't do. So that did something to me. You know, I realized that by working out hard, building my strength, building my attitude, and creating this mindset that there's nothing I can't do. Well, that kind of set the program for me. I did not stick around. I only played for a couple years. I didn't take school very seriously. I had ants in my pants to want to get out in the workforce. I wanted to work. So I went to Dallas, Texas. I'd been there once, and I was going to go work construction and then figure out what I wanted to do, and ended up going to real estate school and got my real estate license. And it was an industry that I could work extremely hard, and I could enjoy all of the rewards. There was no ceiling on that industry. So I did that for 10 years. And once I opened up my own company, of course, I was driven. I really wanted to see this company succeed. And so what I did is I just did extraordinary things to try to do things to keep it going and to make it exciting for me. You know, did I ever have doubts at all about if I was going to be successful? Did I ever worry about, you know, am I going to be able to pay my bills or build this company? Here's one thing. I was a praying man. I am a praying man. And so I really believed in, you know, manifesting success. To be good at selling real estate and to really be passionate about it, you've got to be money driven, which is a lot of, it's almost opposite of what, you know, inspirational, motivational speakers like me advise you to do. You want to be passionate about something, and hopefully that'll create a great income flow. You know, you're working at night. When somebody calls you at 8 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock at night, you better have your happy face on, and you better be thrilled about what you're doing. So mine was more money driven. It just was. I worked weekends. I didn't go with my friends to the lake and to ski trips because I was extremely dedicated to my profession. And so I was kind of addicted to it. I mean, I couldn't wait to get up in the morning to go to work, and I had no problem working until time to go to bed. You know, I worked waiting tables so I could feed myself while I got my business going. I was always naturally motivated. I loved discipline. I believe discipline creates habits, and once you create that habit, it becomes routine. So to me, I was always motivated by watching other successful people. I worked for another company for 10 years. I know people that have got their license and gone straight to open their own company, and they failed. Go work for another company for 5, 10 years or whatever it is. Be a sponge. Learn everything you can before you do something like that. And I do that. I say that in every industry. If you want to open up a restaurant, go work at a really good, reputable restaurant for 5 years. Be the busboy. Be the dishwasher. You know, these are the things that will keep you in business instead of one of the 87% that failed their first year in business. You know, when I moved back to Omaha, Nebraska, I went with another company when I first got here. And I realized that what I had cut my teeth on in Dallas, Texas was completely different than how they did business in Omaha, Nebraska. And so I only lasted there about 6 months. I was grateful. I left on great terms. I just said, I'm going to start my own business and this and that. And I was actually, my goal was at that time was to keep it just me, myself, and I. I was not going to try and grow a big company like I did. And before I knew it, people had said to me, God, I like the way you do business. And are you taking on any realtors? And I never thought about it, and finally I did, and it kept happening, and we were kind of like the best kept secret for real estate companies, and my concept was completely new and revolutionary to the real estate industry. I actually treated the agents like they owned the company. It was completely new to, back in 1993, no one ever heard of a broker treating the agents better than they would the company, and putting the agent first and the brokerage house second. So then all of a sudden I met this gentleman who was an attorney, and also he wore a lot of hats. He was an attorney, he was in the mortgage business, real estate. He says, you know, you guys got a really great culture. You're doing stuff that no other company does. And he kept asking me, what do you want to do with your company? And I was like, you know what, I'm happy where we're at. I'm extremely happy. And he goes, well, I have the ability to help you grow. He goes, you know, so bottom line is, moving forward, I hired this gentleman on a 2-year contract to do nothing but get the word out about my company. And he did, and before I know it, I've got 100 agents. My whole thing was low overhead, high profit. I was not a fancy guy. I had 100 agents working at my company out of a 1,200 square foot office. My cubicle was this big. And that's kind of the way I sold myself. I'm not the big man on campus here. You are. So people would come into this 1,200 square foot office space and see me with a cubicle that I could barely fit my computer on. Then before I know it, I'm buying a big, huge office building. Now all of a sudden, moving forward again, I've got 350 agents and the largest independent real estate firm in the Midwest and the third largest real estate firm in Omaha. So we're rolling, and it just was really exciting. So the way that we really, our claim to fame was we developed a culture that if it's important to our associates, it's more important to our management. We created all of this, and we revolutionized the way real estate sold, at least in Omaha, Nebraska. Now, guess what? The rest of the country's doing the same thing because everybody got it. Right now, the agents rule. And that's the way it should be. When you're on straight commission, you're an independent contractor. If you tell your broker to jump, your broker should say how high. My philosophy. And it's not rocket science. It's not something you have to go to Harvard Business School to learn. It's common sense. Hence the title of my book, Common Sense Selling. But it's common sense. So if somebody came up to me, these young people like they do in these conferences, and they say, I want to start my own business and I want to get going and I want to be my own boss and I want to do all this, and they say, Van, how would you start your own business and what do you recommend in today's economy? That can be very in-depth, but just very briefly, what I would say to them is, first of all, find something you love to do. Make sure you have another job that's paying the bills while you work on your own business on the side. Does that mean you might have to put in 8 to 10 hard hours a day for the job that you have, and then you get home at night and you have to work grueling hours to try to get your own business going? It's money that keeps people from doing what they want to do. So you've got to find a way to feed yourself while you're trying to chase your passion. But once you get started in your own business, one of the biggest problems and the demise of people starting their own is they think, now I'm a business owner. I'm going to go lease this car for $700 a month and write it off. I can write off everything. I can take all my friends out to lunch and write it off. Well, you're not going to be in business long, and I'd guarantee that. What my recommendation is for anybody wanting to start their own business is pretend you are flat broke. Do everything in your power to keep your infrastructure the lowest you possibly can. If you don't absolutely need it, don't buy it. You know, if you can't afford to go buy a BMW and pay cash, guess what? You don't need one. Why put yourself in these challenges if you don't have to? I drove a car, literally when I started, that wouldn't go over 40 miles an hour. I was embarrassed. You know, I was a single guy, and I drove a car that didn't go over 40 miles an hour. But I knew that one day I'd get a car that would probably go the distance, you know, and I earned it. I worked out of my home, so there was no infrastructure. It was pretty minimal. It really didn't cost me much at all. You know, a couple grand maybe, business cards, company signs. And I was one of these that if I build it, it will come. I just didn't believe in spending money. 20 years later, I still feel the same way. It's totally okay nowadays, and it's more common than not that people are working out of their home. And it's very acceptable. Probably more of a majority of entrepreneurs work out of their home. 97% of all business owners today have less than 10 people in their company. I'll guarantee you 80% of those work out of their home. You know, if I were to go back and had an opportunity to start over, and would I do anything that would be different? I don't think so. And I'll tell you why, because I've had challenges. I became a father and a husband within 4 months of each other. You know, things happened in my life that maybe that day or that year, I'd say, gosh, I wish all this wasn't happening at once to me. But when I take a look back, everything happened, I believe, for a reason. You know, I just believe that as long as we take adversity and learn from it, and we're constantly a work in progress, I wouldn't change anything. I just wouldn't. One of the things that I highly recommend for anybody wanting to get in their own business or any type of position that they're in leadership is be a sponge. Keep learning. Keep learning. And one thing that no one can take away from you is they can't take away your work effort. They can't take away your discipline. They can't take away what habits you've formed to try to be as great as you possibly can. If you have the drive, determination, and desire, there's nothing you can't do. There's really nothing you can't do. One thing I want to make sure to point out that I did not touch on that is huge and very important is watch your associations. We are the average of the five people that we hang out with that are in our sphere. We're the average of these 5 people. So if you have people in your sphere that are bringing you down, that abuse alcohol, drugs, or they don't work hard, or they're negative and they're not good for you, get rid of them. Or don't say that you want to be successful, because with these people in your life, you won't be. So I want to be successful, and being in the wrong crowd doesn't go together. There's nothing wrong with being in the wrong crowd. Do that, like most people do. But it doesn't go together with wanting to be successful. A lot of people that are trying to be successful and trying to go on this path are very lonely because not a lot of people think like them. So you need to get in groups. You need to get in like-minded organizations of people that want to grow, entrepreneur groups, Chamber of Commerce involvement. This has to become a way of life. You don't get up in the morning at 8 o'clock and say, you know what, I'm going to go be successful and do things to try to be successful until 5. And then I'm done. I'm going to go back to my old self. That doesn't work. It's a mindset that has to be 24/7. That doesn't mean you work 24/7. That means you're in a positive environment to the best of your ability 24/7.